Hello. Sounds good. Ostan.
Raz, dva, tři, raz, dva. Backup?
Okay, backup.
Question for Frank, 3 microphones on the sound.
I won't give you another.
No, I have mine. Okay.
1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
So,
Not turn
we
off.
do not have to. Okay.
It's always off.
On the top.
This is open.
Hello.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Hello. Okay.
That you will manage from here.
Sorry?
No.
You don't have to touch anything.
Yeah, sure.
And
I'll just-
he will control it. So don't. Or do you want to sit, Stella? You feel far away. There's mics, right? People
There, that's. Where
are
it's.
live. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Dries, and thanks to everyone who's coming here. Yeah, so that was another excellent keynote that you've done for DrupalCon.
Thank you.
But I'm sure many people have questions. So if you have any questions, I think there's some roving mics, but also you can, so the people in black t-shirts, if you put your hand up there then. So if you want the microphone, just wave your hand and he'll sort you out. And you can also ask questions through the app. So if you go to the program section in the app, you can go down, find the Dries Q&A, and in there you can ask questions. And that's what I'll be looking at. So, question to get you started.
All right.
I'm really excited about all of those contributor tools that Tim talked about. So, when did he say that it would be all ready? When can we use them all?
Yeah, good question. And probably a question for the DA, but because they're a small but mighty team. They have a lot to do. But some of the things are already available today. And so they use this kind of sort of rolling thunder where they continuously launch new capabilities one step at a time. My guess is, I don't know if any one of the DAs here, actually, Neil is there. Neil, what's the answer? Because I shouldn't be guessing. I couldn't hear it, sorry. He would be guessing too. So it's ready when it's ready.
So is the eventual plan to discontinue the issue queue on Drupal.org and move entirely to GitLab?
Sorry, is what this?
Is the plan to remove the issue queue on Drupal.org and move entirely to GitLab?
Yeah, it's also a question for Neil. I think we want to move everything over, yeah. Like, the vision really is to use as much of GitLab as we can, because if we have two different systems at the same time, it actually creates more work, not less work. And we really want to just go all in on GitLab, where it makes sense, obviously, and just rely on GitLab. And then we get the innovation engine from GitLab, because obviously they're now a well-established company. They're adding a lot of capabilities. There is a whole ecosystem of integrations with GitLab. And so we just want to tap into all of that. And I think if we keep too many Drupalisms, like sometimes we do, like a lot of these opportunities and integrations just don't, we might not be able to fully take advantage of GitLab that way, So one of the reasons it's taking a little time is, one, we have a small team, as I mentioned, doing a lot of work. Two, we have 20-something years of history and content and issues, which it's very complex, 40,000-something projects. Just core alone is a lot of history, and so all of that needs to be migrated. And interestingly enough, we built our own infrastructure, but even the GitLabs and the GitHubs of the world, they don't have all of the capabilities that we have. Like, we really built something over the years that allows us to scale to a project the size of Drupal, where we have 40,000 integrations, and we have 1 million users on Drupal.org, and we have 10,000 people collaborating on Drupal any given year. So we've built this massive, massive collaboration tool. And GitLab and GitHub wasn't necessarily invented for projects like Drupal, with the scale and the complexity of Drupal. And so a lot of what we need to do is actually push GitLab, in our case, to add the features that we need to run and manage a community as large and as complex as Drupal. And so the Drupal Association has done a wonderful job collaborating with GitLab, and GitLab has been very generous as well, contributing time and money to help us build these features. And they're also very eager to work with us. I'll give one more example, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
But like, you know, Drupal pioneered this credit system that you might be aware of. And we have integrated the credit system in our, you know, collaboration tools. And that doesn't exist. Like, because we were literally, you know, the first or one of the first to have this. And GitLab is very interested in having a feature like that so they can make it available to every other project in the world that uses GitLab. And so when we think about how do we bring the credit system into GitLab, it's not like a quick, it's not necessarily an easy, quick effort, you know. There's a whole lot of work and thought and design thinking that needs to go into that to not only migrate the existing credits, but also to evolve it so it can be applied to the conceptual principles of GitLab, which is a little bit different. And then also, they want to then make it available to every other open source project in the world. And so they have to think about how do we make it reusable beyond Drupal as well. And so just wanted to highlight that, you know, to show, like, you know, we are leading the world sometimes in how we work and the tools that we have to build Drupal with so many people. And, you know, GitLab doesn't have all of these features, funny enough, right? And so it takes a while to get all of these things done, and which is why it's hard to say it's going to be done, you know, in 3 months or in 6 months. But I've been very encouraged by the pace, though, of the progress. Every time we meet at DrupalCon, there's a whole bunch of new features.
That's very good. I really like the Kanban board view of the issue queue, because I find that really difficult to navigate and manage as a maintainer.
Yeah.
So with all the work that is going on, like on, say, that initiative, but also other initiatives that you have, like, how is that all being funded? You mentioned the philanthropy and the grants. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah. So one of the things we want to start doing is go after grants, as an example. So there's a lot of organizations, could be government organizations or philanthropic organizations that have grant money, you know, that will make an investment in a project, hopefully like Drupal, you know, when, you know, our ideas and principles are aligned with their vision. And, you know, I'm actually presenting on Friday this week at a conference of the European Commission. And they have billions of dollars in grants. And at this conference, there are some high-profile policymakers and grant makers. And they invited me to present at the conference because they want to learn from Drupal and open source collaboration. And they also use Drupal, by the way. But they like how Drupal is a global community with local, you know, communities as well, and how we all work together. And they want to apply some of that thinking to other industries in the European Commission, because they recognize that Europe is a collection of smaller countries, but if we can all kind of work together, maybe in a Drupal-y way, that they can build something bigger across country borders. And anyway, I'm not saying they'll write a grant, but I'm saying grants are available, and historically, we have never tried to get a grant.
All right. Never tried to apply for?
I don't, to the best of my knowledge, we have not. We had a few grants as it related to the, around COVID. I forgot what they were called, forgiveness things. Yes. Anyway, but we really have never applied for grants. And so we're going to try it, which is nice, and see what happens. But imagine we can get $2 or $3 million a year in grants, and we can use that money to promote Drupal or invest in strategic initiatives for Drupal, those kinds of things. That would be pretty nice, right? And we have a team now. We hired a person, Kristen, and she has a long background and a lot of experience with grant programs and raising money from different institutions. And she's coming in very excited and ambitious, and hopefully we can get some grants. And that would be another way to help grow Drupal and sustain the project.
Yeah, applying for grants is like a whole other skill set that you need.
Yes, and that's why you need people specialized in it. So we never had that skill, but now we do, which we'll see what happens next.
So there used to be a Promote Drupal initiative before. How is that going to differ from what the current plans are?
Yeah, I think Promote Drupal has been great, first of all, and a lot of people have put in a lot of great effort. Sometimes I still think, and I don't mean this as criticism, we're only scratching the surface sometimes of what we could do to promote Drupal. And so it's really about, doing what Promote Drupal does and then more. Like, how do we give them more resources, and how do we support initiatives like that more broadly? And it goes all the way from making sure Drupal is present at relevant industry events to having more and better content on Drupal.org as well. I mean, if you think about it, if you go to Drupal.org, it's actually really hard to learn about, Drupal in a way, in some ways. Like if you were to go to websites of competitors, they would have a lot of content for all of the features they have. Like, I'll give one example, but let's say our workflow tools, our content workflow tools. We have some of the best content workflow tools in the world. But it's really hard to go to a page on Drupal.org where you can learn about, here's Drupal's workflow tools, and maybe with a little video, and really tailored for people that are sort of curious about Drupal and they're trying to assess if Drupal would meet their needs. Same thing with multilingual. We're really good at multilingual, but do we promote it well? If you are new to Drupal, you're trying to figure out, is Drupal a fit for my project? It's not that easy. And so we miss, for example, long story short, we miss sort of the classic product marketing content, which is promoting the features and the capabilities of Drupal. And for every feature in Drupal, which is maybe 100 features or more, we should have a page that explains the feature in a way that helps people understand what Drupal can do for them. So I think there's a lot to do, go beyond what we do today, and also promote Drupal for different verticals or industries, promote Drupal to different buyer personas, developers, obviously, but also marketers, like really good content for marketers, or good content for, CIOs, like, and other kind of more strategy-oriented roles. And to me, and I've talked about this in the past, but like I think about this, like we've built sort of one of the world's best engineering machines and one of the world's largest engineering teams with 10,000 plus people. Like, why haven't we done the same on the marketing side? Why can't we get hundreds of people in the Drupal project market Drupal together, just like we do for code?
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of things there that we can try, and I think that could be pretty exciting.
We have a question from Tony in the audience who says, you'd like to do better at promoting Drupal. The story is so inspiring. So isn't it time for Drupal the movie or the book?
Is it time for Drupal to move?
Is it time for the Drupal the movie or Drupal the book?
Wow, that would be cool. I don't know. Yes? Trying to picture what this movie will be about. But it might be a nice, like, documentary-style movie, maybe, Could be fun.
Another question, going back to GitLab. So is it the right path, do you think, to offer the option to opt in for GitLab, as described in the keynote in the video? Or would it be better to do a cut and only support GitLab?
I don't know what the best process is. I mean, I think the end state is GitLab. I'm pretty clear about that in my head. But how we get there, I think we're doing sort of a gradual, get there step by step. And we have to think a lot about how we manage a change like that, right? So I think change management is pretty important so we don't disrupt, Drupal. For example, we are about to release Drupal 10. We don't want to, in the middle of the Drupal 10 release process, kind of make things impossible or hard. So we have to be very careful about how we roll out these features and how it impacts our packaging scripts and our, all the things that we have that we've built over all the years. So the end goal is GitLab and GitLab only, almost, or as little Drupalisms as we can. But yeah, we just have to get there in a gradual piece that brings everybody along and doesn't disrupt the project.
We don't lose anyone on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in relation to the marketing effort, another question, you mentioned the different industries and the different verticals. Miro was wondering, should we pick specific segments and that we're trying to go too broad, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I think Drupal is already broad. I think the power of Drupal is that it's very flexible. It scales from small to large, from simple to complex, and because of the pluggability, the composability, and all the modules, Drupal is being used in every industry today. So that is a fact, right? Like every industry uses Drupal, so I think it's a strength right now that we are that platform that can be used across every industry. So I think we should try and promote it for multiple industries. Having said that, I do think there are industries that we're better at than others. Like we continue to be really good in government, in higher education, media and entertainment, and so yeah, we have a lot of amazing references there. But even in other industries, we're getting better and better references. Like I've seen a lot of people in financial services adopt Drupal, in healthcare adopt Drupal. Like, and these were traditionally industries that were a little bit more maybe reserved about open source, maybe a little bit less risk-taking, but they've gone all in on Drupal as well. So, given the size of the install base and given just incredible organizations using Drupal in all of these different industries, I think we have to promote all the industries, really.
So how can we help promote Drupal? Is it case studies?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think that's what I meant with it would be helpful if we had sort of that coordinator role, because if you think about it, like we have all these amazing Drupal agencies, and guess what they do? They're often in the marketing. They help their customers market their customers by doing brand design, content creation, website building. Not everybody is a pure website builder. A lot of the agencies in Drupal, they're like full service firms. And are marketing experts. And so we have all this talent in our community. But what I see missing sometimes is kind of like, how do you organize
coordinate it all
across them all, right? And so when you ask how can people help, well, there's a million ways you can help. We need all the content. We could translate the content to different languages. We need campaigns. We need all the things. But it feels a little bit like unorganized, and people don't know where to get involved and how to help. And so I don't have a great answer to how can you help, other than maybe work, kind of work with your local community and promote Drupal in your area and try to write about Drupal on your own website and all of these things. But we really need a coordination role, I think, that kind of creates a marketing plan and then kind of figures out how people can contribute as part of a bigger plan.
So thinking of the different industries and verticals that Drupal is in, and thinking about what we currently have, like our distributions, and then there's the plan for the recipes. Do you think it'd be good to highlight those and promote those?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and actually one way you can probably all help, just to circle back to that real quick, is you all have the relationships with your customers. You know, you do projects, it's your customer, right? If you're an agency, but getting the references, I think, is key. Like being able to go to your customers and ask that they are willing to be a reference, write a use case, a case study, and bring those case studies to Drupal.org. I think that's one way that everybody can help promote your customers, and in the process, you can promote yourself too. So it's hopefully a win-win for all the stakeholders. But I think the recipes are great because then we can have recipes and promote the recipes with case studies along the same way. Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions in on GitLab again. So with Drupal's GitLab CI tests, will they be agnostic or packaged in a way that agencies can use them within their own workflows, especially the automated tests like accessibility?
I don't know. Maybe Neil knows.
Yeah.
We don't know, yeah. Sorry, I'm not the GitLab expert. Yeah, but these are good questions. Yeah.
And maybe?
Maybe somebody can give Neil a microphone. I have a microphone here, Neil.
Or will those tools be open source?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the same testing on a custom module as you would for a module on Drupal.org, so that would be about the same. So yeah, there's some reuse there. But yeah, testing a Drupal project on Drupal.org, like a module or a theme or whatever, like that's different from end-to-end testing a website. For a website, you want integration tests and more kind of behavior-driven development tests to test the whole thing, not just a bunch of parts.
Okay. I'm thinking about I won't go too much into that part, but the automated accessibility testing. So there's that aspect. But then currently on Drupal.org, you've the option as a maintainer to opt into security advisory policy or into the security team coverage. And you get a badge then on your project page saying you're covered by the security team. Do you think we can move towards something like that for accessibility so that maintainers can opt in and say, yes, I commit to adhere to the W tag or A tag standards?
Yeah. I think my initial reaction is that I like that idea, right? If you are the maintainer of a project and you want to make a commitment to accessibility, which today that's not a requirement for a contributed project, but if you say, I will commit to this accessibility level, I think it would be nice if people could state that, right, on the project page. And obviously that doesn't guarantee that they'll be actually accessible, but at least it demonstrates that they would be willing to accept patches and consider accessibility bugs as serious bugs to fix. And then if you have it on the project pages, what's nice about it is that as an end user, you can now filter modules by accessibility too, because if you are a certain kind of organization, that might be really important to you. More and more we see government mandates around accessibility. So you may want to filter modules by accessibility compliance, let's say. And so yes, I think that would be a good idea. I'm sure there's a lot of little details that are to be figured out, or there's no guarantees, that kind of stuff, but at least
I think it's a good idea, and it's Tom's idea, wherever he's sitting. But because it would increase awareness even among developers that this is something that they should strive for and achieve.
Exactly.
Regardless of whether they've opted in, is going, oh, maybe I should.
Right. I agree. So, sounds like a great idea.
Yes. Switching then topic to the automatic updates. So do you think this will also ship with a tool that you could have the automated, eventually, it's like a later phase perhaps, that the automatic updates project could commit the code to Git, so you're not just doing it in a development environment and then you can push it through? Or is that really more for the hosting companies to provide a way to do that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I'm kind of curious to see how different people will use it, to be honest. You know, I can see some people using it the way I demoed it, where you hit a button and it updates your site. That will probably be scary for many organizations, because they use a dev staging production workflow, obviously. So, you know, we'll have to fit into those workflows. But even in those workflows, you know, they probably will use Composer and command line scripting. But even so, maybe there's a way to do it this way where, you know, maybe you can upgrade a staging environment with clicking buttons, if you will, and then push to production. So I don't know. I think people will figure out different ways to make it part of their workflow, depending on their risk averseness, depending on their resources as well. Like, not everybody has dev staging production workflows.
I think it's that difference or conflict maybe between the needs of enterprise sites and agencies who are working with it, and then the end users that maybe the smaller sites, you know, like feels a bit more like that other CMS beginning with W, that it's more towards that type of audience than necessarily enterprise. Seems like a bit of a...
I think what we're building is actually nice in that it allows these enterprise use cases really well. You know, we have all the right tools for enterprises today with Composer, I think, and then automated updates and project browser is actually built on top of it, but just kind of makes it a lot more user-friendly. But it's not like two different ways of doing things in many ways. It's, you know, just making these complex, powerful tools available in an easier-to-use way. And so in that way, we can perfectly cater to both, which is the magic, I think, you know. And you can even start with the UI, and then as you get, your site gets bigger or you get more serious and you need to like move into a more typical enterprise workflow, you can, and you won't have to make any changes. So it's a great way to get people started and experiment with Drupal, and even for a small site, maybe it's perfectly fine. The site grows and grows, maybe it becomes more important, and now you can be more serious, between quotes, about it too, and take it to that next level, all with the same software, which is, to me, seems like a huge, compelling, like a very compelling story versus like, oh, you know, a negative. It's a positive, not a negative. So,
do you think it would help new adopters who, or even new developers, sort of download it, play with it, and then maybe start treating Drupal like I did as a hobby and get more involved?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things, so I think a lot of us, probably, a lot of people in the project, they got involved because they used Drupal for a hobby project or a small project. And, you know, could have been their soccer website or their blog or something small and simple. And maybe raise your hand if that's, how many of you got involved with a small site? Yeah, there's a bunch of hands, see? Maybe 20 people that got involved because Drupal was accessible and easy, and it allowed them to do something quickly. And now a lot of us, are, you know, kind of grew up with Drupal and ended up building these large, complex websites as well. And so that's a very interesting recruiting dynamic, you know? And it's important that we don't completely lose that. And I think a lot of the work that we're doing today, project browser and automatic updates and et cetera, will bring that back a little bit. Like, admittedly, we've lost that a little bit along the way. And so if we can make it easy for people to get involved with Drupal and make Drupal a little bit more user-friendly for smaller projects, it's a great way to recruit contributors. Because what happens is you start with Drupal, you build things through the UI, and then it's like, oh, I wish it could do this. And then you have to like maybe dabble a little bit with codes, and like and before you know it, you're building modules and contributing back to Drupal. So, you know. I think
Yeah,
it's
so finding Drupal developers is an issue for all the Drupal agencies I've talked to here
Yes.
at DrupalCon. Do you have any other ideas on how to?
Yeah, a lot of ideas. Yeah, I mean, I think I was talking to some Drupal agencies last night actually, and a lot of them allowed their employees to contribute to Drupal as a tool to recruit people. Because guess what? You know, a lot of the best Drupal contributors or aspiring Drupal contributors, they want to work for companies that allow them to give back as part of their job. Doesn't mean like full-time necessarily, but you know, maybe several hours a week that can be set aside for them to contribute back to the project, or make it part of their, the rhythm of the organization. Meaning, sometimes I see agencies and companies, you run into a bug, they just fix the bug on their local environment and never contribute it back. And that's a little sad and can be frustrating to people that work at these organizations. And so they like to work for companies where you run into a bug or you have to add a feature, they're allowed some time to then contribute it back to the project. And that's really nice because I think it allows, and hopefully a lot of you feel that way, it allows you to be part of something bigger, you know? You're like a part of the Drupal project, not just as an end user, but as a contributor. And you can actually learn a lot of things from contributing too. Like, talk to a lot of contributors that say, I've learned so much from contributing to Drupal. And so it's good for career development, it's good for attracting some of the best talent to Drupal. So I think it helps, and then you should advertise it. And that's one of the reasons why we have the credit system too. And companies use the credit system to show potential employees, like, hey, if you come work here, we contribute back. We allow you to contribute back, and it's, you know, I think it helps you hire great talent.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
It's definitely a promotion tool, if you know, for recruitment process. I think the fact that you can provide people the time, they'll want to work more, perhaps, with your company. But I have a few questions in on the Drupal learning curve, and you know, what can be done to help new developers overcome that?
To make it easier for them to get involved, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great question, and there's probably not a quick and easy answer, but
And that's a new question.
yeah, it's been an ongoing, you know, journey. But I think we can do a lot more. I think around sort of the onboarding of people too. Like, I'm going to give another example maybe, and I think it's an opportunity for the Drupal Association too. But when you join the project, typically people will create an account on Drupal.org. And when you do, right now, that's it. You've got an account. But if you think about what other organizations do, they usually nurture people. So maybe a week after or immediately, you get an email because you created an account, and the email will say, now do this. Or they point you to things, you know, and they have like this nurturing process to get people, you know, let's say in our case, productive. And they support that journey. Maybe we email them a video. Hey, you create an account. Watch this 5-minute video to learn about how we work together. Watch this video to learn how to make your first contribution, you know? And so that I think we don't do. So there's all this untapped potential, I think, to help people along. But that's on Drupal.org, I think. You know, there's training, documentation, books, all these things that can help people get started.
Simon wants to know if there are any specific plans to improve documentation.
I don't know if there's specific plans. I'm sure various people in the community are working on improving documentation. I'm not sure I know all the details.
Yeah. So, change topic. You mentioned in one of your slides about all the great work that we've done, like we're Symfony 6 ready, we're nearly there for PHP 8.2, and you also mentioned smaller core. So, how do you make the decisions of what features leave core, what features are going into core? Somebody's mentioning the paragraphs module, you know, then we have layout builder, but, you know, how do you decide what should be in core and what shouldn't be?
It's a good question. There's a couple of different ways we think about it, I would say. Some things we decide sort of grassroots, I would say. And so people just contribute things. And when we see them, we're like, wow, that's cool. That should be in core. So that's one way that happens, which is great. Another way sometimes is we look at, you know, a principle that we use for core is like, if it's in core, it should be used a lot, you know? Like it should be infrastructure. It shouldn't necessarily be something used by 2% of the people using Drupal. And so we try to apply that filter. And it's actually also the filter that we applied to remove things from core. So we remove things like aggregator and fora module. And that's because when we look at the adoption of these features, we felt like they were not used enough to warrant inclusion in core. And so that's another principle that we do. And then the third piece, I would say, is like I organize like a Drupal product survey every few years around every major release, and we survey everyone in the Drupal community. And people kind of vote, if you will, about what things they would like to see in core. And so we use that as an input as well. And so, for example, the last survey, automatic updates was like the #1 thing by far. And so that's how we decided that we should have that in core.
Okay.
So there's very grassroots ways, and then there is kind of top-down ways based on community input. It's not like just me deciding it. It's like, you know, we go through a survey and a process of looking at the data, that kind of stuff. And then there is also this lens about, you know, core should be about infrastructure. And so we actually talked a little bit about this in the previous DriesNote in Portland, where we look at how many people use it, what's the effort to maintain it as well, and we kind of try to decide if it's core worthy that way. So, and then sometimes we move things from contrib to core. I don't think I've completed that point, but if something gets built in contrib and it gets really widely adopted to the point that basically everybody installs it, then we move it into core. And examples of that are what was called CCK, as well as views. These were two modules that basically almost everybody used. And so we felt, all right, it's better if we put it in core, because then we can maintain it in core, and we can kind of simplify a few things around guaranteeing a good upgrade process and that kind of stuff. So.
I think Path Auto is the one that's for me. I use it on every site.
Yeah, Is it the #1 module right now? Yeah, it is.
No.
Definitely in the top 5, I think.
That's Token.
Is probably one of them.
Trivia
these might be
questions.
candidates for inclusion. Yeah. What?
Just changing topic ever so slightly, like going a bit back to the promotion, but Drupal Commerce, you know, is quite powerful, and it's sort of the leading Drupal platform for e-commerce. Mm-hmm. Why is it not promoted as much or talked about?
I don't know the answer, but it should be promoted more, because it's a great set of modules to build, you know. For a certain category of commerce websites, it's like excellent, you know, and very full-featured and powerful capabilities. But that's a good example of like what we need to promote more, because they have incredible references. There's like 60,000 websites using Drupal Commerce.
Wow.
It's a lot of sites, you know. And some of these sites are pretty impressive sites. I was actually talking to Ryan, who's, you know, sort of the founder of Drupal Commerce. I don't know if Ryan is here, but he was talking about a website. I won't say the name, but it's a pharmaceutical company that uses Drupal Commerce to, I think they sell COVID tests. And they're now doing billions of dollars in like e-commerce revenue through Drupal Commerce. Incredible, incredible use case. And that's just one of the sites, you know, of the 60,000. So there's all these great sites using Drupal Commerce, but it goes back to like, we need to have some promotion around Drupal Commerce. And again, Drupal Commerce in a way competes with large commerce platforms. And commerce is a larger industry than content management, you know? Like CMS is small, commerce is large. So we're up against the commerce tools of the world, Magentos of the world, these large companies. And so you could think these companies probably have marketing teams of, you know, 20, 30 people that all they do is promote commerce. And so we have nothing. So I think that alone, we could spend a lot of time and effort promoting our commerce solution. I don't think we'll ever get to 20, 30 people to promote Drupal Commerce, but just promoting it better, I think, could go a very long way.
So I'm conscious that we're out of time. It's now flashing at me. But I do have two more quick questions.
I'll be brief.
So are you still willing to submit a video recipe for Umami?
Yes.
And
I have to enroll my
recipe
wife
would it
into
be?
that project. Together we can do it.
What recipe?
Oh, good question. Well, actually, it's funny, a fun anecdote. Like one of the things we'd like to do is write a cookbook together, because she's a great cook and I like photography, and we have all these ideas for recipes. So we would love to contribute a recipe. We don't know which one, but we'll find something.
And last question, where did you source the amazing background pictures you had in your
Say that
slides?
again?
Where did you source? Where did you get the amazing pictures you had in your slides?
I actually don't know. So I work with a designer. So I make black and white slides, I call them, ugly slides. And then I hand the slides to her, and she makes it all pretty. And she has various sources to get the artwork in the slides. Yeah. And I'm very lucky that I can. It's Ash, and some of you have met her. She's been helping with my slides for many years. And actually, we were talking about this the other day as well, but like around 10 years ago, I decided to get serious about my DriesNotes, because I felt like I only get the stage in front of the Drupal community, like at large, if you will, twice a year. And before that, some of you might remember, I actually presented black and white slides. And about 10 years ago, I said, you know what, I'm going to actually spend a lot of time and money too, creating slides and upping the production quality. And so I hired a designer to help me. And I still work with her today. And so all the credit goes to her.
Well, she does an amazing job.
Yeah, she does.
You also give an amazing keynote. So thank you very much, Dries.
All right. Thank you very much. Very good.
Yeah.
Thanks for attending.
Still in the microphone.
I think you need to ask in person now.
Yeah.
why you will run the conversation. You will choose which question to ask, and also we have some microphone in the room, so we can bring the microphone to some live audience, and they will ask questions.
Davi, how would you like me to introduce you? So, how it works is we have 3 minutes that as a sponsor we can talk a little bit about our business and our product, and then I make a bridge to your presentation. So the only thing I know was what I read on the Drupal.org website.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Good, works. Works well. I think like it's worth to mention, I'm also an engineer, so I closely relate with these people. I have built different kind of systems all my life. So I'm not just another politician or like I don't know, like guy from the cloud. So I truly know what I'm talking here. So many of those things have been, even for the future things, for the most of societies, for example, automated tax controls, etc. So I have personally built them, so I know how they work and how they start to work in other countries. So I think this, to refer to my engineering history is important. But currently I'm more like entrepreneur and angel. So I have more than 45 startups I'm taking care of, plus my own. So always you have to do that. And does it mean together? Yeah. So also means hunt in Hebrew. But you have many people in Finland with the name Pussinen, so I don't know what to complain.
Yeah, and we have I need to say this in between that we have the
But yeah, so Untitled. So
but you were the first CEO of the country
yeah,
in the world.
in the world. Yeah.
Right.
So basically, we started like no every country has that. Like we started to think that country needs a CIO, a chief information officer. That was the first thing for Estonia. So that's something to mention.
Yeah, and Estonia is probably the most technically advanced country in the government side. So it's mind-boggling how well things work there compared, for example, Finland. But the things that they are advanced.
Yeah, but like here also we talk about society. We don't talk about government, even though the examples are like.
But if the government endorse that, like Germany, for example, that you need to. I don't know. You are from which country?
Belgium.
Okay, then I can use this because it's very relevant. There was a discussion about that if you need to do something official thing. In Germany, you need to go to office and spend a day there, and you get things done. And then in France, you go to the office, to the government office for a day, and there is. It might be that you get your things done. And in Estonia, you spend 20 minutes with your computer and it's done. So that's the sort of difference.
That's even too much. We try to get to the area where there's. I mean, child is born and the mother gets the first lot of money. So everything happens. That kind of authority.
Finnish taxation system is really not set up in
Yeah. But yeah.
So I summarized technical background,
An engineer, right?
engineer,
Yeah.
yeah,
First government CIO in the
first
world.
government CIO, Estonia, entrepreneur, angel investor, several startups. I think the talk, we were happy we could do this one because the talk really goes well with our product and our vision. So the product is an open DXP. We put it in the market as being the most open DXP with a low entry barrier.
Okay.
So control of your content, your data, your code, which is important for data sovereignty,
Yeah.
especially if you're a government, if you're trying to build a digital society where the talk is about.
Okay.
We think that's important.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm also curious to see in your session how open source is impacting digital societies, how this open thinking.
I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but you can continue the conversation after, but we will
Yeah.
just run the show flow so
Okay.
you see how it goes.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
So there is a countdown, through like 10 seconds. Then you can go on the stage. You start your introduction. You will have your slide, and you will see 3 minutes there. It's the time you would have for the introduction.
All right.
Then there is a jingle. We will see it, so you can go step out of the stage. And the jingle, you will see it. I think it's approximately 10 seconds, so you don't need to rush on the stage. Then the jingle ends. You have your slide, and you can start introduction. So the time for you will be 75 minutes. So it's including the live Q&A. So you are free to, again, to do like 60 minutes, to leave maybe 15 minutes. I would say between 10 and 15. Yesterday for the keynote, we didn't have any question from the live audience. They were all using the app because I think they are quite shy. I don't know. Hopefully some people. But when you introduce, you can always mention that during the full keynote they can start to ask questions through the mobile app and written, and there will be a live Q&A with microphone at the end. So that's super. Yeah, that's good. So we do the test.
All right.
Yeah.
DrupalCon. So yes, then I do the introduction. I think it's looking good. All right. Okay. Yeah. Try the mic. Yeah, it's working. Yeah.
All good with the intro? You want to go with 1 or 2 sentences?
Yeah. I checked with Tavi.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's good. All right. So I welcome Tavi on stage.
Yeah, you will welcome Tavi. Then the jingle. So what will you say? Like welcome.
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Yeah, let's have a picture as a first thing because then it's an icebreaker. Like, yeah.
But you want to call them on stage or
No. I'm just like maybe they can stand up or something like.
So you will have, you see, 75 here starting.
Yeah.
It's included again the live Q&A. So.
Okay.
And so then I guess you finish the slide. You need to mention something for Yanni to know it's like time for the live Q&A. So Yanni, you can join the stage. So I don't know who you want.
Like enough and like Yanni, let's go, and then I sit here, right?
You can come up there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you will take you can take the tablet with you maybe in advance during the.
Yeah.
You can select already the question and
Yeah, sure.
Then you start the keynote, then it's the conclusion. So, and maybe right after the conclusion, you just mention for the picture.
Yeah, I try to remember that. Yeah.
And we will put the lights on for picture, and you can just stay.
Yeah. What is the end slide? Is it the DrupalCon slide or Tavi's slide that stays during the QA?
Yeah, during the Q&A, we will put back the slide from Drupal.
I think I don't have any special in the end. Yeah, that's the final. Sorry, this is the final one. Okay.
That's the last slide?
Yeah, that's the last slide.
You want to keep this one during the live Q&A, or we put back the Drupal?
It's actually a good one. I don't know if you like.
What do you think? Yanni?
It works for me.
Yeah?
Yeah, Einstein works always.
Let's keep that then. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Because you could then have a picture slide that you say that now it's the time for that when changed to the DrupalCon, if you could then edit there the group picture and show that on the stage when we wrap up.
That is the time for the picture, yeah.
Yeah, that it could be shown there that everybody, those that didn't listen to me or anybody else, they could then see that it's now coming.
Yeah. Okay, sure. So you are all clear for you?
Yeah.
Good? Yeah.
I just have to now add the picture to the slide.
Yeah. Is that the iPad?
Yes. So
There's the other one. So.
yeah, the other one is the same, so it's already connected. It's just in case there is any trouble with this one, you have the other one.
Yeah.